I'm Subodh Agrawal, a practicing cardiologist in Athens, Georgia. I really believe that your most important asset is your health, and you're responsible for taking care of your health. Nobody else will do it. So today we're going to talk about an interesting topic is that can you have lifestyle which does not require any pharmaceutical drug? You can eat good food, and if you need supplement, you can use the supplement and able to prevent occurrence of the new diseases, or if you have a disease, you can manage that by nutrition. So today is a day where we want to create the awareness that the food is what you eat, what you become. Just imagine when you are 2 year old and now you are 20-year old. So between 2 years to 20 years, the body size increase. And what changed that body size? So what you ate, that changed, that what become your body. So to join me today, I have the medical scientist, Mr. Steve McConnell.
Hey, Steve.
This interruption. So sorry about that. I want to introduce my friend, Steve McConnell, who is a scientist and really a guru in supplement. He has passionate feeling about that. He believed that by taking the right amount of food, right time, eating the right way, and if you need supplement, you can really prevent um, diseases. You can prolong your life and live a drug-free life. And I have my friend Mr. Enrique here. He runs a lab in Texas. But the reason he joined us today that he is the example of a man who living on good food, good supplement with goal that stay young forever. He follow scientists scientific publication and new technology to really change his overall look. So he's getting younger every day, although he's aging, but he's aging beautifully. So he's gonna give us insight what he has done, how he has learned, and we can learn from him. Now we have Richard who gonna basically represent moderate this talk and will help us to represent you and answer your question. What I like you to do is imagine yourself being 100-year-old and not being exposed to toxic drugs. So your life is depend on good food, the way you eat, the time you eat, everything changes your life. So lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle with healthy food can keep you away from the diseases. So Richard, why don't you take it from here?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So yes, and the webinar today is pharmaceuticals versus supplements. Can you achieve a medication-free lifestyle? So my first question is, why do people take supplements, doctor?
So Steve, you want to take that question before Enrique take that? Why think
Sure,
over last 100 years that the
sure.
need for supplement is increased?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you very
Okay.
well, Steve.
Well, when I first finished cardiovascular program, probably 95% of what was administered in a provider's practice, a doctor's practice, was pharmaceuticals. And I think patients have really pushed the envelope for wanting other options. Now, there are a lot of concierge integrated functional doctors, naturopaths have been using natural therapies much, much longer. But I think the patient population has grown substantially, probably exponentially, in that they're tired of somebody writing Lipitor or writing Crestor or putting them on a drug with side effects. And myself, I struggled with that as well. But being a scientist, I tried to go through all the literature and determine which ones actually worked well, had a benefit, were safe, and weren't expensive. And now, when I coach a patient, probably 90% of the recommendation for therapies is natural. They're more accessible. You don't need insurance. You don't need the doctor to call it in. You just need an Amazon account for the most part. There's a few things that are not available on Amazon, but I think that the public wants it. When I talk to patients, they always choose natural. And if there's an option for a pharmaceutical, they get thumbs down. And I get it. I think that ultimately it's in the patient's best interest to have more than one option. If they have a provider that's not willing to use something natural, well, it's the patient's body. They have a right to get another opinion. And quite often that's where I come in. But there are a large number of options. Metformin's an example of a drug that was a derivative of the French lilac plant. Most every drug, probably 99% of them, are not cut from whole cloth. In other words, they're not invented. They're copying what God made, or nature, or Gaia, the Mother Earth, something natural that's been around for a long time. The first statin came from Zinzikang, I hope I pronounced it correctly, which is red yeast rice. In my opinion, it works just as good. It's got good outcomes data. Actually, it looks a little better than the statins. And it's the only statin that doesn't increase Lp(a). So I recommend it because it will actually drop it 23%. And of course, I'm a big advocate of niacin. I get a lot of flack from that, but it's usually people that haven't read all the facts or really had no clinical experience. The worst opinions and strongest opinions from providers are usually from those who never learned how to use it. But in their defense, who's got the time to titrate niacin? Well, I do. Most providers don't.
So what he's saying, that God made human, and then God also made food for them to eat, but we forgot. We forgot that about the food. Enrique, what has happened last 100 years, which make human beings need to take supplement?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I look at the supplement need in 4 different ways. First, just to enhance overall health, because some of the supplements that are required are not carried over from the foods anymore. You know, obviously to compensate for the nutritional deficiencies, and also to just be a part of a healthy lifestyle, you know, with targeting for specific health conditions that you may have. So yeah, across the last 100 years, the latest study from the U.S. Agricultural Department, you know, communicated and tested that the foods did not have the nutrients that they used to have, that our grandparents used to have in their food.
Wow.
So for that reason, supplementation is required and essential for some folks.
Very good. So,
Wow.
you know, life has changed. You know, people living longer, people working late in night hours. So the pattern of eating, the pattern of growing the food has changed. So if you eat regular food and similar food every day, and you don't eat supplement, you're gonna have some deficiency. Is that right? That what he's saying, Enrique?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what even if you eat the healthy foods, you still have to supplement with a few key essentials that will help you, you know, live a better life.
So what paths does someone take to know what supplements they would need? Like, how does someone know what supplements would I even need?
So, Richard, that's a very good question. Let me take that, and we will ask Steve and Enrique to talk about that too. And so the question is that, you know, I'm healthy, I eat good food, and I have no problem. I don't even need to go to doctor. So now you're telling me, no, you need to start taking supplement to stay longer, live longer, and stay out of disease. So it's strange for me. Now I know that, you know, because the food is not sufficient because of the time, the way it's grown. So how do I know what supplement I need to take? So what I tell, you know, there are supplements which probably everybody need. One is like now we are not exposing ourselves so much to the vitamin D, which is sunshine. So most of the Americans are now deficient in vitamin D, and also most of them are also deficient in omega-3 if they don't have omega-3 diet, and vitamin D. See, so if you don't want to test yourself what you need, so initial recommendation will be that you should take vitamin D, you should take omega-3, and you should multivitamin. Now, if you want to know what exactly you need to know, then you need to go and start testing it. So let me ask you, Enrique, and let me ask you, Steve, first. If a patient has coronary artery disease and they have a heart attack, so what kind of testing you need to do to make sure they get enough right amount of food and right amount of supplement?
There's an infinite number of supplements you can take, and nearly as many biomarkers to indicate the need for that. So I encourage patients to get the best lab work you can get. Don't depend on the provider. Now, again, I'm empathetic to the provider, but if insurance companies own the practice, and most of them do, you're going to be limited to what you get from the laboratory, because the provider, the best quote I've heard is, I sold my practice. It's like enlisting in the military. You have to learn to follow orders. So your orders are, you're going to use these, in my opinion, this is harsh, but it's true, stupid, antiquated, out of step biomarkers that only reveal a portion of the diagnosis. If you order better biomarkers, it's just a credit card away. It's about $200 or $300. You're going to get everything you need. And then you can ask the provider, what do you think about that? Well, unfortunately, most of the time they'll have not looked at any of the newer biomarkers, thanks to the insurance company bossing them around. So it's in your interest to get the biomarkers, get the best biomarkers. And it's a short list, but you need to get an APOB. You need to get an LP bracket little a, and you need to get probably a cystatin C for your kidneys. Now that'll cover the lipids, the cholesterols, that'll cover the kidneys, and there's more to it, but 70% of risk reduction comes from manipulating the lipids. So I chose to be a lipid specialist because the net effect on the patient is most profound if you fix the lipids, but you can't do it looking at cholesterol numbers like LDL, total cholesterol. Patients need to realize how worthless that is. That was state of the art 40 years ago. There is technology now, and it's not that new, and it's just a credit card payment away. If your life is worth a quarter of a current new car payment, I would say it is. Borrow the money, do it on a payment plan, but get the lab work, find somebody who knows what to do with it.
So let me ask you, United States Task Force for Prevention of Disease have a declaration of what they want you to check. Check for cancer, check for deficiency, but they don't recommend doing this detailed biomarker you're talking about. So
Well,
there is a gap between the functional approach versus what is published in a scientific community. What do you think about that?
The problem with that is you have several sources of opinions that go into these, what I call guidelines. There's a good portion of them, they're ivory tower, they don't do clinical practice, and the rest of them pretty much work for the insurance companies as well. So their information, probably 90% of it comes from pharmaceutical funded research studies. They would love to keep people focused on LDL because the statins work on LDL, but they don't work very good in ApoB. And quite honestly, I always look up to a physician, particularly famous, learned, scientific physicians who work clinically and do research. But at the end of the day, what do they do every day? If they're not using ApoB, they don't really have that much experience. And those guidelines have become less and less effective. Dr. Brad Bale, a good friend of mine, and him and Amy Doneen are very much in the camp that I agree with. The guidelines will get you killed. For years, the guidelines said, start off with lifestyle, diet and exercise. Well, if you have LP(a), good luck. That won't help you. That's 1 out of 3 people if it's elevated. My own wife is in the top 5%, very elevated. There's only one thing that works, and it's niacin, and they're in denial, but I got it down 70%, and I always get it down 50 to 70%.
Wow.
Why aren't they mentioning it? They smeared niacin intentionally, in my opinion. Now, it could be 60-40. Was it 40% ignorance and 60% greed? Or was it 60% ignorance and 40% greed? I don't really care. The point is that there's a lot of good information out there, and there are better biomarkers, and most of the guidelines never mention them. They're still talking about LDL at the National Lipid Association. That's why a lot of members like me won't even go there anymore. Why? They do abstracts, and the abstracts are far more advanced. But at the meetings, a lot of people stood up and argued with the guys running the meetings because they were still talking about LDL. LDL is not the best biomarker by far. ApoB is all the biomarkers. It's a direct measurement. You don't need to be fasting. And if you lower the ApoB, there's a 1% relationship to every decrease in risk. LDL is about 0.7, and the lower the LDL is, it drops to 0.2. So you can't even rely on it. It doesn't have a direct relationship with the risk. And when the guidelines start confronting this, I'll start paying more attention to it. But most of the people I hang out with and I respect, we abandoned LDL 20 years ago. And I learned the hard way because my dad had a heart attack 6 months later. This is after he had the heart attack, the MI, with 3 stents at the age of 81. I get a call from Florida, and go ahead.
The medical community, so you are the rebel from the medical community, and you want to do something what is public.
I'm not alone. I don't want to disrespect allopathic medicine.
I want to make sure the audience understand there is a different opinion among the physicians, and there are certain physicians like functional medicine physicians. They think their approach is a little bit different than the established medical community. So we're going to introduce the new idea here, and basically you need to research yourself, understand it, and take this information and talk to your physician. So what is the advanced biomarker testing, Richard? To tell us about that, where do we get this information, and you're going to tell us about it?
Enrique, I think, can tell us about the advanced biomarker testing.
Yes.
So Enrique is really qualified. He not only research everything what is being published, he also uses them. So Enrique, give us your personal feeling about this advanced testing, and give us the reason why you spend so much money, your hard-earned money, to do this test.
Yes, absolutely. As anybody, when we grow, we start feeling different symptoms, what they called in the medical field diagnosis codes. Some may include mood disorder, cardiovascular disease, obesity, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, fatigue, weight issues, dietary guidance, malnutrition, maldigestion, athletic performance, physical trauma, healing. Many will have these symptoms and say, I've tried everything, I'm trying to be healthy, but I'm not really feeling better. These symptoms are starting to get worse. And when those symptoms get worse, you obviously fall into the high risk factors that happen after the age of 30, 40 years old. And once these issues begin, you have to identify why is causing the issues. What is happening that you're not aging like a centenarian ages, why you're not aging like that, why you're not aging, like that
So these
grandmother, right?
tests
Yeah.
will let us know that.
Yeah, so this test, will let us know that. We would obviously, you have to test the microbiome, your gut, the bacterias in your gut. The gut is almost like the world of fermentation. It's growing bacteria,
Wow.
and you could grow bad bacteria or good bacteria depending on what you eat. That's why what the doctor was saying at first is super important. You are what you eat. That's what Socrates used to say, and let food be thy medicine, be the medicine be thy food. So that was said, back in, hundreds and thousands of years ago. And this was this has been the knowledge from day one, but we went more in the pharmaceutical route and think that every symptom can be cured with a pill, which is true, but it's good to know what is causing the symptom, and maybe curing the cause of the symptom will actually get you healthier faster and with no pharmaceuticals. So you test your microbiome, you test, the nutrients in your body, like what do you have, what you're lacking. If you're lacking vitamin D, like the doctor is saying that, there's a huge deficiency. We live in Florida, and when I started the transformation, I was deficiency in vitamin D, and I'm in the sun all the time. So even if you're in the sun, it doesn't mean that your body may not create the vitamin D that you need, because going back to the nutrients in the food, and to create these things, the body needs certain nutrients. So if you're lacking nutrients, you don't do the regular process of the body of creating your own nutrients. So those are one of the things to identify, is what are the nutritional supplements that you need. There is a test for that. And you also test for if you're gluten free, if you're gluten allergic to, if you're allergic to gluten. So you test for that to see what foods should I be eating and should not be eating. At the same time, many of the problems of the common factors that I mentioned before are caused by the basically the parasites that people may have from just eating, for example, hot dogs. There is, from bad quality sausages, it is shown in different studies that if you look at it with the microscope, you will see the parasites in some of these processed meats and foods. So you're eating that, those parasites stay in your gut, living in there, eating all the good bacteria. And then when you go to an airplane and somebody is sick in the airplane, you end up catching it because your immune system is not protecting you against some of these attacks.
Wow, interesting. And what's the stress hormone analysis?
Yeah, so that it's related to your sex hormone, sex globulin hormone, and that is related to high stress levels or low stress levels or medium. But that gives you an idea of how to understand what how stress is affecting your life. You may have a very stressful job that, I mean, it might be, deteriorating you.
Recording in progress.
It might be deteriorating you, and basically that may hurt you down the road. So understanding that is very important. That's related to your hormones. Hormones is very important to balance your hormones so that all your functions in your body are working properly. The same with toxic metals. Is basically the way one of the famous doctors, Peter Attia, surgical oncologist that turned into function, that dropped oncology and converted to functional medicine. And basically, he basically states that the toxic metals is almost like a 5 gallon of water that you have of time that you have to be over capacity.
Wow.
So every year you have a little more toxic metals coming into that 5 gallon of water tub that you have in your body. And by age 40, 45, 50, 60, 70, 80, you know, you are filled up. Your toxic metals start to produce a negative effect on your health, on your cardiovascular health, on your metabolic health, on your blood pressure. Sometimes your blood pressure is high just because you're having an allergic reaction to the toxic metals, the mercury in the fish, in the big fish, the arsenic, the cleaning products, the hygiene and health products that we buy in the pharmacies. All those products have certain chemicals that are not good for you. So testing on that, seeing where you're at, may discover reason why you have certain symptoms that as we mentioned when I started, and that could be the reason why you have heart health issues or thyroid functions issues or immune system issues, metabolic issues. All these analysis are conducted, and allows you to understand where you're at. And it's very important to do it once in your life. Check out where you're at. And if you're high in toxic metals, there is chelation therapies, and there's glutathione, and there's good solutions out there that bind those metals together and allow you to release them in your natural release systems of the human body. So
Wow.
understanding your omega-3s is also equally important, because of the inflammation that is caused from some of the foods and lifestyle. Omega-3 helps you with inflammation, and it helps to reduce the risk of plaque formation in your arteries.
Most people are familiar with omega-3 as a fish oils, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And what's this telomere test, biological age? I'm sure a lot of people have questions about that. What is that?
Yeah, that's basically it's a test that it'll test your biological age by measuring the size of your telomeres, which is the connectors that we have in our genes. So it's measuring the life of those connectors. When you lose those connections, you don't produce the same functions that you're normally producing. So that's what the aging process is. So you try to avoid, by applying different techniques, you're trying to avoid your telomeres to disappear, basically.
So short telomeres are bad, long telomeres, that's good.
Right.
So let me tell you, Richard, these tests, what Enrique talking about is basically not recognized by insurance or by Medicare or Medicaid. So they are not the routine, not a mainstream of the medical community. What he's saying is that if you want to take responsibility of your health, and you want to go in deep in research, and you want to stay healthy and younger, and you want to, instead of getting old, you start getting younger, defined like what he said was length of the telomere,
Right.
biological age, then you have to pay for that.
So
your insurance not going to pay
for a patient, pictures really work. I do a lot of coaching where there's no visual. Imagine your chromosomes at the very end. There's a point, like when you buy new shoelaces, there's a tip that's coated in plastic. Imagine when you have a pair of sneakers that are 10 years old and that plastic's gone and the end of the shoestring is frayed. Now it's damaged. That's what the telomere is. When it's shortened, that means there's damage, and eventually you're going to see repercussions in your health from that.
And you're gonna die. You know, I mean, that's a cell occur. You don't want to mention that, but that what happened. The shorter
Well-
telomere, that means you're about to go to heaven. So let me tell
Yeah.
you what you want to do, Tim. Introduce the idea of joining the Health Well Safe community. You can learn more about it going to the website, or you can send us a request on the email. So once you become part of the community, you will get the information, anything you want to know about the testing, how to get those testing, then what need to be done, we can help you. Because we believe in helping each other out. We believe that you should take responsibility for your health, learn from it. Or if you have any question, we can help you, or you can find a functional physician around you who can help you, because you're going to have different kind of opinion. The opinion like what you got from Enrique, who trying to get his age to his son, who's 25 years old. Now he's 40. So he doing everything, and you can look at him, and he look younger than what he used to be about 5 years ago. The idea, Enrique, and that because it is incredible effect. What he spent time on learning new things, doing testing himself, and one day we want to talk about that, Ted, Richard.
Excellent, excellent. So yes, like the doctor said, if the viewers at home watching want to go to healthwellsafe.com/supplements, they can sign up, they can learn more, they can see how they get these tests. You can also take a picture, open up your camera phone right now, and scan the QR code, and it'll take you to that link as well. So I know a lot of people are probably wondering, doctor, what supplements though then should people be taking to prevent diseases?
So in my practice, I ask the patient, are you ready to take care of yourself? So it's not only supplement, it start from the lifestyle. Take the responsibility. What food you eat, how you eat, and how much you eat. So they got to commit on that. They got to eat right, amount of right, and eat right properly, chew the food properly, and don't overeat. So once they take the responsibility, I recommend that how much money they want to spend. Because all these supplements cost money. But in about, what is it, Enrique, in $50 to $100, you can get a essential supplement which is listed here, like omega-3, niacin, vitamin D, methylfolate, magnesium, allicin, bile salt, creatinine, multivitamin, B complex, and dietary fibers, and probiotic. This is the minimum minimum supplement we're talking about. And I tell you, we can talk about each supplement for hours. But if you take those supplements, so Enrique, if you take those supplements without any testing, I know how you feel about testing. So if I take those supplements for about, I would say 6 months, and I do the testing again, do you think I will come perfect, or do I still see some problem?
You
You
could
got to test.
you definitely got to test, but you would definitely be, checking when you do test 6 months after, you would test for the biomarkers that Steve mentioned earlier. You would test for the nutritional Nutraval, the test that tells you which nutrients you need. So you just run those basic tests, and at that point you would see what of those supplements, or maybe you didn't take one that you needed to take that was specific to your health, and you may have to add a couple and maybe remove some from these essential lists. But yeah, if you take some of these supplements, you should see an improvement together with good sleep, together with a good exercising or staying active throughout the day, at least shooting for at least 10,000 steps per day. And even if you're just walking, it's considered super healthy to walk instead of sitting. So it's little things like that together with the supplements and the change of lifestyle, like you said, people will achieve a better health overall. And once they know where they're at with their biomarker test, they will be focusing on fixing those particular areas. In my case, was metabolic syndrome and heart issues, or early signs of heart issues, and super high cholesterol and triglycerides, and ApoB was high as well, was over the charts, and also my A1C was in the pre-diabetic state. So all those markers in a 6-month time, I was able to bring them to the optimal level. And I was able to even reduce my biological age by 11 years old. So my biological age right now is 35, and I'm shooting for 25 in the next 6 months, so
Nice.
that I can beat my son.
That's awesome. That's
Real
awesome.
quick, I think it's important to emphasize, you can go and find 1,000, 1,000,000 websites where they recommend something, and there's usually a financial relationship with the person promoting this on the website and the vendor and the supplements. If they're not requiring testing, blood work, genetic testing, I would be suspicious. How do you know it worked? You're not always going to feel better. Well, ApoE, which is a genetic test, it's a one-time test, will tell you how responsive you are to cholesterol medication. Also tell you what your risk is for Alzheimer's, dementia, cardiovascular disease. People that have a 4 or a double 4 especially, they've got very poor LDL receptors. You imagine a catcher's mitt from the elbow up, to the hand. That's kind of what it is. It's a receptor that grabs the ball, which is a particle with the cholesterol, out of the bloodstream. Well, they're slightly defective in an ApoE4. So you want medication that'll make more of them to compensate for their inability to catch the ball. They'll catch a ball, but not as well as a normal receptor. That's just one thing you see with ApoE4. They also tend to be hyperabsorbers, like my brother and I. A hyperabsorber, you shouldn't put them on statin monotherapy. The risk goes up. Same with Lp(a). The biomarkers are invaluable. They direct treatment. And even though I'm kind of anti-guidelines and so forth, if you use the latest biomarkers that have good science, they've been validated, and you purchase supplements to correct them, then all you have to do is follow up in 90 days to see if the number was corrected. Now, genetics, you're not going to see a movement. It's just a one-time test, but it's good to know what your risk is, and it's also good to know which supplements might be good for you. I tell people, if you don't believe in niacin, order an ApoB, titrate it with somebody like me who knows how to do that, then look at your blood work in 90 days. You can have 8 pages of blood work, and the niacin is going to benefit every page, not just the lipids, not just the cholesterol particles. So it's all about real science versus fake science.
Here. There is a U.S. government has put a beautiful website. It is called Office of Dietary Supplement, and there you can scan the QR code. This is the website. Richard, can you tell us more about that website?
I believe that Enrique could possibly tell us a little bit more. I think that's his.
The website is basically a non-biased information about all the supplement available in the market. So it is put out by the government for general public to understand, because the supplement are not governed by FDA, and they don't have to prove, like the drug had to prove that it's effective, not effective. So if all these elements are written down here, if you go to their website and type any of those names, you can see it written up, and it's written up both ways, one for the physician, one for the general public. And then if you want to take supplement, you want to know more about it, I would recommend that you go to that website, Office of Dietary Supplement, U.S. government, and learn more about that.
And I just want to remind the viewers at home at healthwellsafe.com/supplements, you'll have links to those tests, the supplements that the doctor and our team talked about. So my next question, we talked about supplements to take, but what about foods? Can you talk about foods that maybe we should be
This is
focusing
this
on?
is really good slide to show that what has happened over the last 50 to 100 years. This is a scientific study shown that the U.S. Americans are now not eating as much vegetable as used to use into 1999. So the number of amount of vegetable being used by Americans has significantly decreased. And vegetable are the nutrient which you need for your life. So that's why the nutrition is going down, and that's why the need of supplement is coming up, and need for testing is coming up. So what happened? Let's think about that. The food is what you become. So if you don't take the food right, and there is a marketing for a unhealthy food like sugar-added drinks and rapid food, fast food, there is no marketing for good habit. There's marketing for bad habit. So what we see now, we have more people are obese, more people have diabetes, more people have hypertension, more people dying from heart attack. Although they're living longer, but their lifespan is really gone increased, but its health span gone down. So we are seeing people who are not able to take care of themselves, living in assisted living or in the nursing home. So these are what we like to do is some kind of way of government getting involved, like the way they got involved in tobacco, get involved in the food industry where the initiative become that you learn about nutrition and make your food as medicine. This is a good evidence that if we don't do anything, then we continue get in that line where the more people going to get sicker, we're going to spend more money in healthcare as we're doing.
So it seems like the Mediterranean diet is one example of food being medicine for some people.
Correct. The Mediterranean diet by research has shown, and which is a combination of food, fish, fruits, and complex carbohydrate, is shown that it's a better diet for prevent coronary artery disease. People with Mediterranean diet has well-nourished supplement, and what we're showing that it's difficult for people to eat Mediterranean diet. You can see those slides, people not eating fruits, and the amount of food, amount of nutrition they're getting is less and less. And that is showing in the statistics that more people are having chronic diseases. Chronic disease, the nutrition is a major part of the chronic disease. So we have more chronic diseases, we're spending more money on chronic diseases, and my suggestion will be one way to halt that problem is to go on nutrition, get people healthy, get them know what nutrition they take, they let them know how to eat, what to eat, how much to eat, and that will significantly affect the cost of taking care of chronic diseases.
So what foods then should people just completely try to avoid if possible then?
Well, let me tell you, the data has shown that sugar is bad. So there are two major complex things you need. The simple thing you say, listen, I'm going to eat as little as sugar, and I'm going to eat as little as trans fat. The trans fat and low sugar. Now, the people need to understand that sugar is not only crystalline sugar. If you eat rice, if you eat potatoes, if you eat bread, pasta, and the minute you go in your body, that whole thing becomes sugar.
Oh no, don't tell me that, Doc.
Yeah, that whole thing becomes sugar. So this is showing you that what sugar is. So whatever you eating, whatever you ordering, you need to understand that every day, if you continue to eat sugar, then you're moving towards the direction of getting obese, having high insulin level, getting more appetite, and moving towards getting pre-diabetic and diabetic and hypertension and coronary artery disease. And on the top of that, trans fat. If you don't know about trans fat is basically can hurt you in long run. by clogging your arteries. So, Enrique, you want to talk about a little bit more about that? That when you go to shop, how do you read the labels
Yeah.
and what's looking in the food?
Yeah, that's very important, and that you don't need to go to medical school, thank God, to understand. It's just a simple extra time that you should take when you're purchasing goods in the supermarket or in grocery stores. You have to just check the label. Now there is a really cool app that it's called Yuka, YUKA, and it's free, and it allows you to scan the products at the supermarket. Some of them are not listed in the database, but for those you would read the label. But reading the label as is shown in this image, it's looking at, okay, you're looking at trans fat. You want 0% trans fat in any food you eat because it clogs your arteries, it causes high blood pressure, overweight, obesity, diabetes. So you're gonna try to avoid completely like 0% trans fats, very low sat fat, 7 to 10 grams per day, and you want to add and count, right? So if you want to stay away from trans fat, this product that we're showing the label automatically doesn't qualify, right? Because it has trans fat. So you would say this one, leave it. I mean, this is the one my mom used to buy and my grandparents used to buy, and now I've seen that this product is actually been hurting me for years and years and years because I didn't know it had all these bad things, right? So you would have to disconnect from some products that you've been connected all your life, and that sometimes is a hard challenge. It's a hard task to overcome because you're used to the product. For example, Velveeta cheese, that has 13 additives, 5 which are very harmful for the body. So everybody does mac and cheese with Velveeta cheese, and so now that particular cheese it has chemicals and additives that they added so that they preserve the food for a very long time, and that preservation, which allows them to sell more and make more money as a company, does not take into account the health factors that are causing these additives. So what are the alternatives to that? Well, this app gives you the alternatives, thank God, also. But if the product is not on the app, then you try to find alternatives that are not packaged, that you can make yourself.
That's a good. I'm so sorry. Yes, yeah. What should we be eating then?
Yeah,
So let
you
me
should be-
this question comes quite often, and people are confused. They hear a lot of different information, different sources. So I tell my patient, no, you need to really take responsibility that what goes in your mouth. And I can give you simple principles. Simple principles are minimize your sugar, and I tell them what sugar are as we talk about. Minimize your trans fat, and then go on low saturated fat and mention here turkey, chicken, and small fishes, medium-sized fishes, beef, which is cows from grass-fed cows. Those are good choices. The low sugar like egg, avocado, almond. And so what I say is that the food which goes in your mouth should be fresh. It should not be preserved and it should not have additives. So go to the store. If you don't have time, ask somebody, go to the store, get a fresh food, fruits. You got to have fruits. You got a vegetable, vegetable. You need to have nuts. Need the oil. Olive oil. You got to have if you like fish, small and medium sized fish, and so and do variety. No, don't eat same thing again and again. Go and eat different thing. If you follow that rule, then I think you will keep yourself healthy. What do you think about that, Steve? When you go to store, what do you do? What do you look for?
Well, what my wife brings home and what I would look for are two different things. And she's Sicilian, so I'm doomed to have to eat pasta once in a while. But I learned from the Blue Zones, the book, and the there's Netflix video of that. There's something I do enjoy, particularly when I'm in Texas, is part of Mexican food is frijoles, refried beans. Well, a cup of beans every day is one of the guides in the Blue Zones. It's supposed to perpetuate longevity. Well, I try to eat as much beans as I can, as often as I can. I like black beans, so I get cans of it, and I make a little soup, if you will, with some additional protein. A bad thing is potatoes. Now, the glycemic index is just a technical term to show you how high your glucose goes, your blood sugar, and how long it stays elevated over time. Well, you would think table sugar is horrible. Well, it's a quick spike. It's turned into triglycerides, most of it, and that ends up as belly fat. But potatoes, particularly mashed potatoes, you'll spike and it'll stay elevated much longer. So a glycemic index is worse in some foods. That's probably something worth getting a little guide. It'll tell you which foods do that. Technically, going vegan is ideal, but it's also difficult to maintain good muscle strength without protein. I mean, our teeth reflect our evolution, and we ate meat since the very beginning of man. Well, there's a lot of controversy about that, but it's in moderation. At least get some high quality, good quality meat source. Complement your vegan diet. And a lot of people argue with me, but it's tough to get enough protein in your body just eating plants. That works for an elephant, but they have to eat 200 pounds of vegetation every day. And they have a different metabolism and digestive system. So the herbivores have to eat a huge amount. That's your lesson. You can go vegan, but you're going to have to eat a lot. And one important thing, you need to know if your intestine hyperabsorbs cholesterol. Cholesterol is cholesterol, but plant sterols, which is plant cholesterol, is entirely different. It's toxic. My brother and I inherited the defect. 1 out of 4 people have it. You need to get tested for it because you'll need to take a supplement to block those toxic plant sterols. That doesn't mean vegan diet's bad for you, but the 1 out of 4 that do a vegan diet should check their intestinal absorption to see if it's normal, low. You do see that as well. Or if it's high. If it's high, you need to block it. And I use microbiome, which is L-reuteri that's been engineered. It works kind of like Zetia or a bile acid sequester, and it blocks the cholesterol moving out of the gut into your body. And there are some drugs that I am not against. Zetia is the easiest to take. That'll block it. But you don't know until you get the blood work if you have the defect, and therefore you need to change how you are treated or what you eat. But vegan certainly is much safer than meat. But Dr. Sampath Kumar can tell you, they're almost all vegetarian in India, and they end up on dialysis because of roti and rice. Well, what's that? Well, those are sugars, right? Yeah. And genetics in India is, and this includes Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, as well as the continent of India. They're genetically predisposed to have the highest cardiac risk in the world. And part of that's Lp(a), which doesn't respond to diet at all or exercise. It has to be treated. And they end up in dialysis because of the hypertension and the diabetes, which is partially their diet and partially they're genetically predisposed. So having good laboratory work to use as a template for your lifestyle and treatment is ideal. You just have to order the right stuff.
Interesting. Doctor,
Richard,
how much and how often?
So who does the shopping in your house? You do the shopping or your wife?
When I go with her, I take too long. I look at everything.
So Enrique, who does the shopping for, grocery shopping for you? You or your wife?
we do
My
it
wife
together.
does
In
this
my
one.
case, we do it together. We
Tell me
go
about your
together.
fasting look, what you look for, and how you monitor your food. Tell us, share with us, please.
Yeah, I try to find. I try to find local food stores that don't have a long footprint to deliver the products, that they're in local farms here in my neighborhood, and I try to find and where they can tell me the pictures and show me their farm and show me how happy the cow
Right.
and the chickens are and the pigs are. And so if I'm gonna buy animal protein, I'm gonna try to buy the healthiest and the most beneficiary for the health, so that it could do the job that it's supposed to do. When the meats are not following these responsible standards, then they end up producing a different effect on the body, which then connects with all the chronic diseases. So we go together and we try to source our meat. We have a store that gives us all the condiments, all the flours, all the nuts, all the seeds, and we buy in bulk, and we store in containers in the house, so everything has a purpose. And we put that in the salads. We try to have a grass-fed protein or wild fish, and mix it in with vegetable salads, some carbohydrates that are healthy, and yeah, we try to maintain the low saturated fat diet with low or no sugar, and basically stay healthy and active.
Doctor, they said all this good food, but how much of it should I eat and how often? What are your thoughts on intermittent fasting?
So let me tell you, about 3,000 years ago, there was Maharishi Charak. He wrote a book. It's available on Google if you want to read it. He said three things. You need to eat good amount of food, good quality food, and then you should eat the season food. So if during winter, whatever food comes up, you eat that. During summer, you eat summer food. During rainy season, eat rainy food. So along the size of the season, and then eat little food, not a whole lot of food. Don't eat too much food. Eat about, I would say, 50 to 80% of his stomach food. So you eat less, you eat the weather food, and you eat good food, like all different kind of food. And then how do you eat it? I mean, basically, if you don't give time for your food, that's what is going to become what you are. Then he say you need to take time. You could take time, you take eat with friends, and when you're eating food, focus on food, nothing else. Focus on the food, and then other thing you say fasting. You give once you eat something that need to be digested before you eat more food. So give time between the food, at least 4 to 8 hours, and recommend really intermittent fasting. The fasting at least 2 or 3 days a week. You do about 16 hours fasting. During that time, the body will recover, and there are a lot of things coming up. And I think one of our friends, Enrique, you believe in intermittent fasting, and you're about to go in 3 days fasting. Judah, you also do fasting, and it is basically in different cultures. Fasting is really recognized, like a Muslim culture, Hindu culture, multiple culture, even in Christian culture. So, Enrique, share with your experience of fasting.
Yeah, well, I mean, the benefits of fasting have different ranges, right? They're going to help you on weight loss and improve blood sugar control. They're going to enhance your heart health. They're going to enhance your brain function. They are also going to reduce inflammation and potentially even cancer prevention, as your zombie cells that are cells that are, they call them, they're called senescent cells, but in plain English is they call them zombie cells because they're not alive cells, but they're also not dead. They stay in the body lingering and causing harm and secreting enzymes. So, you know, by you doing fasting, you're doing the what is called, you know, that the cells, you know, clean themselves. Basically, they do sort of a self maintenance, and they remove these senescent cells out of the way so that they don't secrete these bad enzymes that could potentially cause harm. So, which also, you know, it is fasting is linked to, you know, a lot of benefits for memory functioning. So if you want to improve your memory, you want to try to do fasting. You know, you could do, like doctor said, 6 intermittent fasting. There's also a fasting that is designed by physicians, managed by physicians, called Prolong, and that's a 5-day fasting. And it's not completely fasting. You get the basic nutrients, but yeah, we are definitely you know, if you do a 3-day fasting of water and bone broth, basically you also achieve excellent you know, effects. If you're into fitness, you could end up losing a body fat percentage, which then gets you, you know, more cut and more healthy, basically, overall, as you're reducing some of these very difficult fats to remove that normally, even if you work out, it's hard to remove these fats. They're very stubborn fats. They don't like to be
Wow.
removed.
Interesting. Yeah, I know my personal experience is that before, when I would eat, I wasn't really paying attention to my body. And so I would eat when there was still food in my stomach, and I felt like it was just kind of stacking on top of each other. And it wasn't until I started narrowing the window of when I would eat that I could feel my body actually processing all that food and, you know, emptying it, so that when I ate again, you know, it was better processed. So intermittent fasting for myself, I think, really helped my my health. I have another question. Why supplements? So if somebody's healthy, why would somebody need supplements?
Let me tell you, as we talked about earlier, the food is going down, the quality going down, lifestyle changing, we having chronic diseases. So there is no doubt in my mind and that supplement can help prevent specific health issues. So, I mean, if you continue taking omega-3, you take vitamin D, you without even testing, they will prevent these specific diseases. It also improves overall well-being, and in some cases, it's shown that it improves in longevity if you include that with the fasting. Filling nutritional gaps, it does fill your nutrition. If you're eating, like if you go to a hamburger and you eat the McDonald's every day or 5 days a week, you definitely going to need some help with supplement. Anybody want to talk about that? I mean, why supplement are beneficial even for healthy people? That this is the healthy people who have no disease. They're not taking any medication. They're working and they're playing. They so they basically feel like spending money on supplement is not worth it. So do you think is really they should spend money on buying supplement even when they feel they're healthy?
I think they should test themselves first and see what they need. And once they know that, there'll be no arguing with the person, because the science the numbers and the science will tell you what you need. So if you don't need anything, it's going to be rare or almost impossible. But if you do happen to be that kind of person, then yeah, then you wouldn't need to take any supplements. But you would have to test first to figure that out. Not just because you think on the exterior you look healthy. You don't know, unless you have bionic eyes, you don't know what it's happening in the interior. There's no way to know other than to test.
The blood doesn't lie. That's why you need to actually test, order biomarkers, because a doctor, I believe it's 90 to 95% of his decision making is based on the laboratory results. And if you get really good lab results, like Enrique's firm does the best battery of genetics I've ever seen, and some really good blood work, there's very little missing. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, and you put every piece in and there's no missing pieces, so you get a full picture. The blood doesn't lie. I'm always amazed when I see somebody's blood work. They're little nuances, they're very individualized, and it tells you a lot. I can see how they're eating. I can see from their BMI if they ever exercised or not. And the response of one person might be different than another based on genetics. That's where Enrique's lab comes in for the drugs. But that's true of supplements too, because sometimes the genetic marker might not specifically point to a certain supplement or drug, but it will tell me if they need more of a drug. Like ApoE4 tells me that the statin's not going to work very well, and they might need to rule out if they're hyperabsorber in their gut. And if the family has a history of Alzheimer's and dementia, there's almost always an ApoE4. But these things can be addressed. There's treatments that work. The blood-brain barrier is usually damaged in a lot of disorders, particularly when memory loss occurs at a younger age. Somebody 60 shouldn't be experiencing memory loss. Well, it turns out regular omega-3s don't even get into the brain because it's damaged. That lining around the brain is designed to protect it, but it can also be defective like any part of the body. If you take a phospholipid form of omega-3s, fish oil, it'll go right through the blood-brain barrier. It has a charge. The blood-brain barrier recognizes it and pulls it through, whether you have a damaged blood-brain barrier or not. That way, if you think you're at risk for Alzheimer's or dementia, or you're always having having a memory loss, get the phospholipid fish oil. A friend of mine in California's got Alzheimer's, and he's still doing pretty good, but I have him on the phospholipid omegas, I have him on niacin, methylfolate, and a few other things. And ashwagandha, which is an ancient Ayurvedic medicine, I'm mispronouncing it, Dr. Agrawal can jump in there, but it's from India. They use it to help you sleep and control anxiety and depression, but it removes beta amyloid deposits from the brain, and they know that from gadolinium brain scans. I mean, that's a component of the disease. How would you know without the tests? And that's something beyond blood and genetics. It's a diagnostic test, but the blood and the genetics will tell you if you're predisposed, and there's a number of things you can do to preserve your brain health. I'm trying to keep my brain 100% until I'm 90.
So I think Steve's going to leave. We're going to running a little late. So let's go to the next slide and
Sure.
tell us the concept of cost versus the benefit. So
Yeah.
So go Steve. We were talking about this kind of time. Right now, the whole industry is pushing the expensive medication to treat something which can be treated very easily by supplement. So tell us about a big example of niacin. Tell us about that.
Well, there's three terms that you don't often hear used, but you need to know what they are. The heck with the pharmaceutical industry. They always talk about relative risk. Perfect example. The placebo group saw 20% heart attack in 5 years. That's a lower risk group. If they're already had an event, it would be more like 25 or 30. But let's use 20. That's primary prevention before anything bad happens. If the medication lowers that rate to 15, the industry likes to say, well, that's a 25% risk reduction, relative risk reduction. Well, it was only 5 points. That's the absolute risk reduction. So you take that, that's your ARR, absolute risk reduction, 5 points. That's a percent, so you divide 1 by that, which is 0.05. You need to treat 20 people to get rid of a heart attack. Well, then the third factor, that's number needed to treat, which you got from the ARR, the absolute risk reduction. Now what's the cost? Well, what's the wholesale price for the drug per year for one patient? And how long was the medical trial? Say it's 5 years. If you use Praluent and Repatha, it costs the healthcare industry $600,000 to $2.2 million to get rid of one heart attack. The champ in that arena is actually niacin. It was the first drug to lower heart attack and stroke. You only needed to treat 27 people, which beats almost any drug. And the cost is 5 cents a gram. Well, they used an average of 2.4 grams for 5.5 years. Well, I did the math. That means if I treat 27 people for 5.5 years, it only costs $5,000 to get rid of the first heart attack. That is not for one person. Wow. That's for 27 people for 5.5 years. The average dose of niacin my patients are on is somewhere around 2.5 grams. So $60 a year worth avoiding heart attack, I'd say so. That doesn't cover everything, but niacin's still the only medication that modifies all lipoproteins, all cholesterol particles, moves the bad ones down and the good ones up. And to this day, I'll argue with anybody. I don't care how famous they are. They usually don't have the facts straight. And
so that's a very good thing we want to talk about. There is a lot of forces in medical world. There's the industry forces, there are profit forces, there are knowledge based on science, the knowledge based on randomized trial, and as a general public is basically got lost. So they depend on their providers to tell them which direction they go. If the provider does not believe in supplement, he's not going to talk about supplement. He's going to give you the thing which he believes in it. So what we recommend is that if you join the Health Well Safe community, you can ask a question and we can give you a non-biased opinion to you.
Right.
So I'll go to next slide. Let's conclude that. We're running a little late, so we can get some questions from the general public. So what I want to talk about today is that what we spend whole hours talking about is only one thing, that health is your wealth. And please get involved. That you are only responsible for your health. Government can help you with medication, they even give you money. But what goes down in your mouth, how you eat it, when you eat it, how often you eat it, all depend on you. And what we have shown that by using the common sense, intermittent fasting, chew the food properly, select the food properly, you can keep your health and prevent the diseases. If you need, so then the testing, if you can afford the testing, go for testing, depend upon the testing, use a supplement or take supplement. Biomarker testing is very important. If you really want to get involved into higher end, it can cost you, but in return, it can get you your biological age younger and maybe make you live longer. If your telomere, you can protect your telomere length. Investing in testing and supplement can improve your vitality, longevity, and your health span.
Truly, your health is your wealth. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We do have some questions from the audience that I would love to ask y'all. The first one is, which are the best supplements for the prevention of dementia and Alzheimer's?
Obviously, that's an area that still requires a lot more research, and it's a growing area, but the omega-3s do help with brain function, as well as your microbiome, because your gut connects to the brain. They work together basically. So if you fix your gut and you find out what are the areas that are affecting your microbiome, then you would ultimately also improve or reduce the risk that you may have for achieving one of these diseases. As you may know or not, that these Alzheimer's and dementia, it's considered diabetes type 3. So it is directly linked to what you eat, and also directly linked with your sleep patterns. If you're not sleeping 8 to 9 hours a day and you're sleeping 6 hours a day, you are increasing your chances of Alzheimer's and dementia. So even without spending any money, you just try to sleep your 8 hours a day, and you would reduce the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. And one of the biggest areas of study for dementia and Alzheimer's has been actually exercising. And a simple walk in the park, again, trying to get your 10,000 steps per day. If you achieve that goal, that's 300,000 steps per month. If you achieve that goal, you would also decrease your chances of getting dementia and Alzheimer's.
So one thing we didn't talk about, and we didn't do it, we wanted to do it, it's called laughing yoga. So lifestyle, which keep you worry-free, include laugh into it, get a good nutrition, get your omega-3 good, make your gut in good shape, you're gonna see the reward. We want to thank you for watching this webinar. We like you to your input that send the comments, send the question, join our community. And this, what we believe is that the only way to reduce the cost of United States healthcare and chronic diseases is that when we empower you as a patient or citizen to take care of your health and give you enough information, as well as rules and regulation like the seat belt or tobacco abuse, something like that. Put extra tax on unhealthy food, and then use that money to provide the good food. Something got to be done to make America healthy.
Thank you, Doctor. Before we end, how do they get a hold of Enrique and his company?
You can reach me in Instagram, InnovativeGX with the double N. We're also going to be posting some things related to testing and that whatnot.
So we want you to join us, join the movement together. We will continue, come and talk to you more about this in future.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody, for joining.